Paul Murphy.
Thanks, Ken Corla. The Minister told the House that he has no ideological position on housing. Minister, that's the best source of capitalist ideology of all. It's an ideology which presents itself as simply being common sense, it's simply being pragmatic, it's simply what's natural, and that we're the ones with an ideology. But it's not true, Minister. You and your government have an ideological bias against public housing, against social housing. And it's clear from what you say and what the Taoiseach says, but above all it's clear from the facts. The fact that last year you built, at the most positive estimation, less than 800 local authority homes. Less than 10% of that would have been built, for example, in the late 1980s. There's an ideological bias there, and it flows from your general capitalist ideology, which sees housing as a commodity which is to be delivered by the free market. And that ideology, which you don't acknowledge, coincides very happily with the interests of those you represent. It coincides with the interests of the landlords, now experiencing the highest profits in the entire EU, and it coincides with the interests of the developers. That's how ideology works, even if you don't choose to acknowledge it. And it's because of that ideology that you say we have no alternative. Because we don't put forward an alternative that sticks to the rules of that ideology. We have alternatives. We have the minority housing report we produced. We have numerous different local plans, for example, a plan for Kilcarbery, which could be supported on Monday in South Dublin County Council, and which could see, instead of 70% of public land being privatised, it could see the land being used for 60% social and 40% affordable. But you don't recognise that alternative because it starts from an entirely different logic. It starts from the logic of the needs of people, and the needs of people to have a decent quality of life, which means the right to quality and affordable homes for all different sorts of people. And addressing those needs means breaking from your ideology, means breaking from the rules of the capitalist market. It means socialist policies where people's needs and their right to a home comes before the landlords, the banks and the developers' right to profit. It means this motion is only the starting point in terms of what's needed. It means a ban on economic evictions to stop now the tidal wave of people being forced out of their homes. It means effective rent controls backdated to 2011 and linked to CPI. And crucially, it means massive investment by the state to build public and social affordable homes at a rate of 20,000 a year over 5 years to reach 100,000, including traveller accommodation and student accommodation. But you won't do it. The other thing the Minister said was that we're not protesters here, we're lawmakers. Speak for yourself, Minister. I was protesting today. All of the other Solidarity PBP TDs were protesting today, and many other deputies in this House were protesting today. And they were right to do so. We're here today now arguing in the afternoon and the evening for this motion inside the Dáil, but we were right to join the protest. Anybody who wants to see an end to the crisis and the nightmare of the housing crisis for so many people in this country should be out protesting. Because if we didn't protest, if people didn't protest, you would do absolutely nothing. It was Frederick Douglass who said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will." If people hadn't protested, if people hadn't distributed the abortion pills, would we still have the 8th Amendment? Will we have access to 12 weeks? If people hadn't protested, if people hadn't refused to pay the water charges, would we still have the water charges? I think we would. And so we have to protest to force change, because that change goes against the economic interests reflected in the ideology that you put forward, those of the landlords and the developers. And today's demonstration was very significant, the biggest midweek protest on any issue in many, many years. It has to be the starting point of a mass movement to force change. It means the occupations of vacant homes should now spread, and in particular it means that a date should be called for a national Saturday demonstration which the forces of the trade union movement should put their full weight behind, combined with the different housing campaigns and campaigners and others across the country, to ensure we bring tens of thousands onto the street on the next occasion and put your government and your policies absolutely in peril.